I did one of these char bursts many years ago and really enjoyed playing around with it and just sort of testing different techniques on this piece of wood. I've always wanted to do it on a piece of quilted maple, and as I was digging through my pile of wood, I found this awesome quilted maple top from Kimball Hardwoods. I knew that with this coloring, if I did a black stain, I could probably put another color on it in terms of a brown and get it, or I could char burst it. And I've been wanting to do this for a while on this quilt, and I finally found the piece I think it's going to look outstanding. You can use one of these mini torches, which doesn't really do anything, or you can get one of these propane torches, which is a little bit better, or you can get the full propane tank and fire away at it like this. Works actually pretty good. The trick with this is really not to heat up the wood too much. It's to keep the flame moving. And I'm doing this on a blank that's already been glued up. I'm also not doing this on a two-piece. I remember when I was doing this, you get the seam to separate a little bit because the glue, as you heat it up, it weakens and it separates. So I'm doing it on this one piece, and I'm doing it on the one piece, and I haven't cut it out. So when I do go to cut it out after I sand and clean this up, I should get a pretty clean edge, and I shouldn't get the glue to separate. Like I said, the trick is to keep this moving. So not ideal. This works, and the flamethrower is awesome. So let's go upstairs and char some wood. So like I said, the trick was to keep it moving, and there it sort of lit on fire, so let it cool off. And then I come back and touch up a couple spots on the edge where I thought it needed it. The edges started to peel up just slightly from loosening up the glue, so at that point I knew it was time to stop. So then we'll move to the bandsaw. And this is poplar and that quilted maple. And for some reason, either my blade just had a weakness in it and it pops here. So a lot of times in these videos, people ask where I get my bodies. And I'm like, I make them. So I wanted to just show the process here. This is that Craftsman 10-inch bandsaw. And I'm using a 3/16 blade. And this works out perfect. So here's the band breaks. And then for some reason my filming didn't work, but I've got a top bearing bit, and I went ahead and just routed that on the sides along that pattern. We're going to come back with my standard template, Big D template. Humbucker in the neck, telly in the bridge. That's the tone I like. So these templates have been repaired multiple times. I just use epoxy to do that. We routed that neck pocket down to about 5/8, and then we're going to lower the humbucker and the control panel here. Originally I thought about doing a reverse wiring rear route. That didn't work out. And so then I've been having a lot of trouble drilling output jacks, and then I found these stair stepper bits that actually do a really easy job of cutting out the control output jack. And so I drill a pilot hole, and then I come in here and it just goes real smooth. It's one of my new finds. For some reason, I've been having problems with Forstner bits, and that worked out real well. So we'll drill the rest of the holes for the pickups. And then we're going to sand the sides. That's 150 grit sandpaper and the rigid oscillating spindle sander. You can see I've got 2 of them lined up here. And this tool is one of the workhorses of the shop for sure. We'll just do that top part. I do want to get the Grizzly sander, belt sander, that big one. I think it would fit perfectly in this corner. The only problem is it runs on 220, and then I have to get it into the basement yet. Alright, so we'll put a 1/4 inch edge on the top and the back. Do all this before we start sanding. Got to take off some of that char. So we'll put on a new sandpaper grit. I've got a blower fan pushing all the dust out. And then I put on a contour sanding pad so I don't dig in one spot too much. And we just do this with, I think this is 180 grit, and take off that first layer of char. I wish I had a better camera angle to show you guys that. So then we're going to do a custom color on the back to match, and this is Angelus Brown, and I thought it was close, so I went with 2 coats, and it just didn't look that right, but we applied it on the sides, we applied it on the back, and I was hoping if I wetted the top, it would kind of look the same, and it wasn't. I didn't like the contrast, it didn't look the same. I do have that nice edge now where I routed for the round over, so I just kind of left it. So what I decided to do is come back with a little bit of black. Actually no, this is darker brown, and the darker brown didn't really help it either. So I had another trick up my sleeve here, which is I took the brown rag and added a little black, and that was it. That nailed it. So it got a little charry, smoky look, but not too much. So having that brown, this is why I didn't apply the black first, because I knew it would just soak in way too much, but at least having the brown and the black, that matches the vibe of the top so much better. So we'll just put 2 coats on. So 1 piece back as well, so the only seam is on the side for the 2 plates. Make sure the color sits nicely. Then we're going to go ahead and sand. We're going to sand that edge a little bit more so it's nice and clean. So this is a higher grit. This is, I think, 220 or 320, or maybe I did both. You can see the coloring in the wood is now a lot more even from the charring. And then we're just gonna rub out some of the color here a little bit. Usually I do this with steel wool, but this is 320 grit sandpaper. And I just wanted to get a couple scratches out here. There's some scratches on the top horn. And then I wanted to rub out the sides a little bit more, just to get it look a little bit more worn in and natural. And we just add a little bit of color up there, wash it in, wash it on the sides, and we match. Going with some velvet oil again. It says let it sit for 30 to 40 minutes on a thick coat and then wipe it off. Here's the quilt. Coloring actually came out really nice. Oh, that's awesome. This looks more like snake skin than my last attempt. Color evened out. Kind of surprised at how close I got the top and the sides. That is a surprise to me. And look at that to that. That's pretty close for different wood types. Alright, so we put this stuff on pretty thick. Really happy with the back. Looks way better than I thought. Got a little bit of fuzz and dye. A little bit of everything. And char. Really soaking this up. I kind of assumed it would based on burning it. But we'll probably wet sand with this and do another coat. I left some of the ridges here on the side from sanding. You can't feel them with your hand. You can just kind of see them in the coloring. This looks killer. All right, we'll let this dry up here. I'll come back, won't film that, but we'll wipe it off. We'll get another coat on here. So this is after 3 coats of velvet oil. I think it needs one more. I'm gonna let this dry for a bit. I really like the satin look of this, satin feel of it. Coloring is pretty close from the top to the sides. And then here's the back. And I really like it. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but we are playing around and trying to do some unique things. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video.